played for Matt Painter my freshman year at Southern Illinois when he was the coach there for that single season. I know they're about to walk through hell with gasoline draws on in the next practice because there is no way you can play any type of basketball game and have that many turnovers, 24. So, Randolph, when you think about what we've seen from Purdue early on, obviously a situation against Penn State, it felt like they came out early and they were just playing around with their food and really didn't take Penn State serious, especially when you look at just how this game transpired.
I think you got to give Penn State all the credit. I mean, they came out defensively and just took it at them. I mean, to be honest with Purdue, you just throw the tape away with this one. I don't know how much of this game you actually the turnovers were the story. Out of that, I don't know what you get out of it. Figuring out how to be more competitive away from home against quality opponents in conference will always be there. You're going to lose games, so I'm not going to overreact to the loss. I still think Purdue is a good team. I'm a firm believer in Matt Painter, but this was just an ass kicking, and it wasn't as close as the final score. Figuring out how to handle pressure, like that was just disruptive, and some of those turnovers was just I don't understand. It's 24. I don't think that'll happen again. But that's all I'll say to it. I just don't want to overreact to that. I think it was an ass kicking though. You take games like this. It's concerning this early in the year to get one like that, but everyone is going to take one, and that's all it was. I'm gonna chalk it up as well. This happens again, and I'm on record for saying I thought there would be a dip in Purdue's. I think people went a little crazy. Like I said, they were going to fall off. They were going to be absolutely horrendous. But I do think they're going to have some losses like this. They're going to struggle away from Mackey. That's one of the biggest home court advantages you can have in the country. And when this team gets away from that, because you're relying on guys. I know we talk about their backcourt, but Trey Kaufman is up averaging 19 a game. Can he take that away from Mackey Arena, considering he's just a primarily left shoulder dominant guy? But today was just an ass kicking, man. You watch that tape. Like you said, practice is going to be hell. You get to get him refocused again, but that was just, you don't take nothing out of that.
Kenny, what do you take away from that game that we saw against Purdue, man? Because you talked about Kaufman Wren, RC, also Braden Smith, Foster Lawyer, those three guys combining for 15 turnovers, right? Yeah. And these are guys that are supposed to be your ball handlers and can relieve pressure and also create and make plays for themselves and others. But 15 turnovers with those three alone can't happen. You're not going to win ball games that way at all.
Well, I think you said it right off the bat. Baseline to baseline, they were playing defense. They were playing defense hard too. It was a tough press to break. And then Niederhauser down low, he really impressed me. He didn't have a crazy stat line, 6 points, 2 rebounds, nothing crazy. But man, he was really clogging up the paint. He's a big guy. He's a force down low. I always got to give the shout out to the big guys down there. But it was just from the very beginning of the game. Hicks came out and he was 2 for 2 from 3 early. He only ended up with 11 points, 2 for 5 from 3. But they came out, punched him in the mouth in the beginning of the game, and they got the crowd behind him. The defense was going. Like you said, 24 turnovers. And then the other big stat of the game is that Penn State made 28 free throws. They went 28 for 32 from 3 or from the free throw line. And Purdue only makes 19. It's a Big Ten game. You're thinking it's going to be physical. I would expect there to be more free throws in that game, getting to the basket. It was just it was tough for Purdue all night.
Yeah, it's one or two ways.
Ace Baldwin was the better point guard tonight, and I don't think Purdue's going to win a lot of games if Braden Smith is outplayed at that position. Like, he's the preseason player of the year, and tonight he wasn't the best point guard on the floor. Ace Baldwin was better tonight, and he had more of an impact to the game. So, like I said, I just want it's again, I'm curious to see what Purdue is going to look like consistently away, but I don't want to overreact and think that they're going to be a ton of performances like this. They'll right the ship, but obviously they can't have that many turnovers. 24 turnovers, man. You just the whole trip back there watching that, they're going to hear it. They know they got to be better, and they will. They just got to figure out the league is going to be what it is. And I think the Big Ten, no one is surprised by what's happening in the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten title will be separated by teams when they go on the road and start winning road games.
Yeah, and it's not foreign, obviously, we're Purdue in those situations on the road. We've seen it time and time again, especially the last couple of years with them dropping some road games. And that's just what it is when you're in conference play and in these conferences like the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, you got to make sure that you're on point, right? Because we know these guys like a Penn State, some of these teams that aren't getting as much love and limelight, like some of the top teams in the conference, are going to play their best game. And so that's my confusion with coming into this ball game. If you're Purdue and knowing that defensively, Penn State, that's one thing that they can try and control on their home court is getting after you. And you're just careless with the basketball. And if they have real aspirations, and I know they do, of winning the Big Ten title again, then you can't have your ball handlers, your primary ball handlers, committing that many turnovers. And again, it's more credit. And you said this, RC, and giving that to Penn State, like they deserve all the credit. I think Puff Johnson is a guy for sure, thanking the basketball guys that he's not at North Carolina anymore. We'll get into what's going on over there, but found himself over at Penn State and had 4 steals tonight. But just one of those guys that's been disruptive and that was disruptive on the defensive end. So when you have guys like that, long athletes that can really get after you and just turn those plays. And when we talked about those 24 turnovers for Purdue, Penn State scored 32 points off of those turnovers. So it's not only that they're turning you over, but it's the live ball turnovers and them in transition and getting out and getting those buckets, which makes the game a lot easier for them. So Kenny, where do you see Purdue after this? Is really only one or two ways you can go, right? I mean, you're going to have a situation in practice like we discussed where Coach Painter, the coaching staff, will continue to remind guys like Braden Smith that, yeah, Ace Baldwin outplayed you, that we got our asses kicked, and it was basically a glorified scrimmage, and we need to bounce back. Or you can see this thing start to fester, especially when it comes to these road games and conference play. So what way do you see this thing going with them?
I think that I like RC said, I'm not taking this loss as anything more than what it is. They came out, they had a bad game on Penn State's home court. Penn State, they force a lot of teams to turn the ball over like that. I think that we need to see where they go. But I will say, I mean, they have a lot of talent. They've played in big games already this year. I don't think that they're, you want to talk about the panic meter, all that stuff. I wouldn't say the panic meter's high for them. I just need to see them come out. And I would not want to be the team that they play after this one, because like you said, Painter's going to have them. They're going to see every inch of that court for the next few days of practice here.
Yeah, that next matchup.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out a lot about them because they got Maryland, A&M, and Auburn.
Yep.
Like we're going to find out about them just in the next week and a half, like early, to see if they respond from this loss. Like we're gonna write this up as a one-off, but we're going to find out a lot. Now, 2 of those are at home, and I think in Mackey is one of the best college atmospheres in the country. I mean, having been there, it's unreal. I'm curious to see how they're going to be. The performances I want to see is when they're away from home. But either way, Maryland, we know, is talented. They're going to be good. That's going to be a tough out, home or away. A&M just junks up the game. And A&M is going to have the same similar type of defensive, intensity as they saw tonight. You know, that they played against tonight. So they may not get the full court pressure, but in the half court, A&M is going to grind you. That's going to be it is going to be a grimy, deep water, ugly type game, right? And then, Auburn is I know they lost to Duke the other day, but I don't know if anybody's playing any better than Auburn in the country right now. And that's going to be a tough game, no matter where you play that. And so you're going to find out a lot about this group. They better get the turnovers out of their system, get ready to go, because these next 3 games, they need to respond.